Hello and welcome to this session on Robot Framework Beginner Tutorial. And in this session, we will learn how to set up Robot Framework from scratch on Windows. So we will go very basic step by step. We will also see how do we uninstall Robot Framework, and towards the end of this session, we will look at some useful tips. So let's get started. And to save some time, I have already added some notes here. So the very first thing is we have to install Python because robot is built over Python, and you can also check if Python is already installed on your system by running these commands python version and pip space hyphen hyphen version. So let me go to my command prompt, and here I can run the command python space hyphen hyphen version, and Python is not already installed, so I'm getting this statement, otherwise I will get a Python version. And similarly, pip is install manager for Python, so using pip we install programs over Python. So of course, if Python is not installed, we will also not get any installation message for pip. So Python and pip are not already installed. You can also check robot framework by checking robot space hyphen hyphen version, and of course robot is also not installed on my system. So the first thing we have to do is we have to install Python on our system. So what we will do is, let us go to our browser and let us say here install Python, and you will get to this link. This is the home page for Python, python.org, and here you can install Python. So this is Python 3.6.4, which is latest as of this time, and then you also have Python 2, and this is the latest version for Python 2. So for this session I am just downloading Python 2.7.14. You can also get the Python 3 if you want. So I am downloading Python 2.7.14, and it will download this MSI file. So let me download this. So once this is downloaded, you can go to the downloads folder. So let me just open my downloads folder here, and we can see the Python file is here. So now I will run this Python MSI. So just double click on this Python installer. It will start the installation for Python. So here you can click on next, and it will go to C Python 27. So we will keep it as it is and say next and next, and it will start installing Python on our system. So let us wait for this installation to get complete. So this can take a minute or two, and then click on finish. So this should install Python on our system, and you can go to your C drive, and either under program files or directly under C drive you will get this Python 27. So I have installed Python 27, so I'm getting this folder here. And now if I go to the command line again and say python space hyphen hyphen version, again you can see I'm now getting the version for Python, and also I can say pip space hyphen hyphen version, and now I'm getting a version for pip as well. So now Python and pip are installed on my system. So you can check with these two commands. Now the other thing we have to do is step number 3 is we have to ensure that we set up the environment variables for Python. So let us go to our uh, my computer properties, right click on your my computer properties and go to advanced system settings, and here you will get this option to go to environment variables, and here you can find an environment variable by the name path. So here we have to add our uh, location for the folders for Python. So go here and click on edit. Now I am on Windows 10, so I'm getting this kind of a view where I can see all the environment variables separately. In case you are using any earlier version of Windows, what you can do is whatever is already present on the variables for path, you can go to the end, do whatever is present. For example, let us say uh, this data is already present in the path environment variables, go to the end, give a semicolon, and then add these folders there like this. So you will just add this like this, C Python 27 and C Python 27 scripts, and save it. Now in my case, because I'm using Windows 10, I can just add new. So what I will do is I will go to my, I will just copy this Python 27 folder and say new and edit and say OK. And I will again go to edit and I will also add Python 27 scripts folder. So I will copy it from here and then I will go to new and OK. Now the reason we have added this is now this is available in our path variable. So whatever is present in these two folders, Python 27 and Python 27 scripts, this can be now executed from any location from the command line. So that is the advantage of adding this to the path variable. So now this is done. Let us say OK and come out. And now we are done with step number 3 as well. So let us go to the fourth step, which is install robot framework. So to install robot framework, we will use pip, and now we already have pip. So we will use the command pip install robot framework. So let us do this. I will say pip install. Let me just zoom and I will say pip install robot framework and hit the enter. So it is collecting robot framework. It is downloading the framework and it will now install it. So it can take a couple of seconds to a minute, and ideally it is very fast. So it has already done it and it is done. So now I can say robot space hyphen hyphen version, and now you can see I am getting the version for the latest robot framework. I can also say pybot space hyphen hyphen version, and I am getting the same result now here as well. So now we are done with step number 4. So we are also done with step number 5, which is check on the command line robot space hyphen hyphen version and pybot space hyphen hyphen version. Now pybot is a script for Python. Similarly, we have Jybot for Java, Python, and the other scripts as well. I will explain in the tips why we use this, although we do not require it this as of now in the latest version. So we are done with step number 5. The next thing is we have to download WX Python. The reason we have to download WX Python is in the coming steps we will be downloading Ride, which is a UI for robot framework, and to get the UI we need to add WX Python. So let's go to this link, and I will provide all these links in the description of the video. So you will get all the links in the description. So here, from here, we have to get our WX Python. Now you will find a lot of entries here. Which one you have to take? So for that, what you can do is go to your command line again and just say Python. And here you will see the bit size. So this is 32-bit. So we will take 32-bit WX Python. So let me search for 32-bit WX Python. So this is 64-bit. This is 64. So this is, you can see, 32-bit WX Python. Okay, so let us click here and it will download WX Python on your system. So it can take a few seconds to a few minutes, and once this is downloaded we will install WX Python. So now this is done. So let me go to the folder again, and here it is. So I will just run the installer. Let me run the installer now. So yes, we have got the installer. Let me minimize this and let us say next, accept the agreement, next, and it is going to you can see it is already going to see Python 27 lib site packages. So this is okay. Let me just say next and next, and this will install WX Python. and let us say finish. So this will run some commands. Let it do it. Usually this is very fast. So in a couple of seconds this should be done, and you also get a readme that you can close. And now we have WX Python. You can also go to your control panel, add and remove programs to find Python and WX Python. So if I say Python, you can see Python is here and WX Python is also here. So both of them are installed. So you can also check with this command pip freeze to see what all is already installed on your system using pip. So let me come out. Let me say Control Z and come out, and let me say pip freeze, and it is showing us robot framework. Let me just exit from here and run command prompt again. So on a new command prompt, if I say pip freeze, still I'm only getting robot framework. So let me just go to my C Python 27, and I can see W9X here, and if I go to lib site packages, I can see let me just see. Yeah, we have this wx and wx version.py, so which is okay. So in case you have this, even if you're not getting it here, that should be fine. So I'll just exit from here, and now we are ready to install ride, which is our step number 7. So for that we have to use this command pip install robot framework ride. So let me again go to command prompt, and here I will say pip install robot framework hyphen write, and click enter. It will collect and download and then start the installation. So this again should be very fast, should take a couple of seconds or max 1 minute, and yeah, this is done. So now this is successfully installed. So now we have ride on our system. So the next step is we can go to the command prompt and say write.py. So if I say write.py here, let me see if it opens the UI, and yes, you can see this robot framework write UI is now open, and here we can, this is something we can use to create our test cases. Okay, so at this point you should be able to see this UI for ride. Okay, so we are done with step number 8, and we are able to open our ride. So we are done with installation of our robot framework, and we are also able to open ride. In case you want to uninstall robot framework, you have to use this command pip uninstall robot framework ride. This will uninstall the ride UI, and if you say pip uninstall robot framework, this will uninstall robot framework. So let me show you this as well. Uh, if I say pip uninstall robot framework hyphen write and say enter, this will uninstall the write. And if I say y and say yes and enter, this says successfully uninstalled robot framework write. And now if I say write.py, it is not finding anything. So I will install it again, and now it is taking the cached location. It is taking right from the already downloaded cached location, and it will again install right. And now I can again say write.py, and this will again start our write. So we are done with this. We are also able to uninstall, and we have learned how do we install and uninstall. So now let us look at some useful tips. The first tip is you should always install WX Python before installing Ride, because WX Python is a wrapper for getting the GUI for Ride. So if you do not install WX Python and then go for Ride, you will not be able to see the UI of Ride that we just saw. So this UI you will not be able to see. Okay, so it's very important to get WX Python before getting Ride. The other thing is, before you get WX Python, always check your Python version by uh, running the command Python. So if you run the command Python here, let me just run and show you, and we have already seen this. If I say Python, you can see the bit version, bit size, so it is 32 bit. So you will always get the same bit for WX Python. So when you go to your this WX Python URL, and let me go back, and here you see there are different bit sizes. So this is 64, this is 64, this is 64, and this is 32. So you have to take WX Python as per your bit size for Python. And the third useful tip is, you will always have a pip cache folder. So in my case, this is at app data local pip cache. So if I go here, you can see here it has cached, all these whatever we download with pip. So it creates a cache. So in the next time you install something, it always looks at this cache folder and then install it from here. In case you do not want to get the cached libraries, or you want a fresh installation, you can either empty the cache folder, or you can do pip installed no cache dir and then whatever you want to install. So for example, let me show you. Let me sorry, let me just come out of this and clear the screen and say pip uninstall robot framework right. So it will now uninstall robot framework right. And if I now say pip install robot framework right, it will not download it. It will not download a fresh installation. It will use the cached folder. So I have to either empty the cache folder, or I have to use this option no cache dir. So if I use this before after the install, so I will say I will use this here, and if I say enter now, now you can see it is downloading it again, and now it will start a new installation with the fresh download. Okay, so this is another tip. The fourth tip is, versions prior to robot framework 3.0 did not have the robot script. Instead they had pybot, jybot and ipybot script that executed tests using python, jython and ironpython respectively. These scripts are still installed, but the plan is to deprecate and remove them in future. So like we have seen, in our case it's python. So when we say uh, pybot space hyphen hyphen version, we have this installed, but it is not used, it is deprecated. Also, if you go to the robot framework user guide, let me go to the robot framework user guide here, and you can search for this, and it's the same thing that it's being saying here, right? Older robot framework version do not have the robot script, and the report script is installed only with python. Instead they have interpreter specific scripts, pybot, jybot and ipybot. So you do not need to worry about this if you are using the latest versions. Then there are some useful uh, links. So this is a link for robot framework user guide. So I will also provide all these links in the description of this video. So here you can go to the robot framework user guide. So let me go here. Yes, so here we have the robot framework user guide, and you will find a lot of information here on how to get started, and a very basic concepts here. We have this quick start guide. So let me also show you this quick start guide here. Again, you will get a lot of information from here on how to get started and a lot of other things about robot framework. Then we have this shortcuts link for ride. So if you use ride for creating your test cases, this will be very useful and very handy. So you have a lot of shortcuts here. This is the GitHub page for robot framework. So you will find all the details about GitHub robot and the libraries that robot framework use. So for example, this is a Selenium library. So this is a web testing library for robot framework, and we will look at it and how to use it in the next session. So this was all about this session. In the next session, we will get the Selenium library for robot framework, and then we will see how do we create our first test case with robot framework. So if we recap very quickly, this session we learned how do we set up and install robot framework from scratch on Windows, how do we uninstall robot framework, and we looked at some useful tips. In the next session, we will start by creating the first test case on robot framework. I hope this was helpful to you. Thank you for watching. Hello and welcome to this session on how to create first Selenium test in Ride. And in this session, we are going to see how do we create a project in Ride. We will also see how can we import Selenium libraries in robot framework. We will add the browser drivers, and then finally we will create our first Selenium test. We will run it and we will see the reports. I will also keep on telling you some useful tips that will be very helpful for you. And in case if you have not seen the last session, it was about getting started with robot framework from scratch, and we have seen how to set up robot framework. So you can go and watch that session in case you have not watched it. And let us go with our today's session on how to create first Selenium test. And to save some time, I have already added some notes. So the first step is you have to open Ride. So you can open Ride by just running the command ride.py. So I will go to my command prompt, and here I will say ride.py and just hit enter, and it should open your UI for Ride. And we have already seen how to install Ride in our earlier session. Also, you can go to your C and go to your Python folder, and you can go to scripts, and you can see we have ride.py here. And the reason I can open it from any location is because I have added this location, which is Python 27 scripts, in the path environment variable, and we have seen this in our last session. Also, you can do one thing, you can also put a desktop shortcut. So I will just go to this ride.py and I will say send to desktop and create shortcut, and you can see it has come here. So even if I now close Ride, so let me just close this and close this, and you can see Ride is not here. I will double click here and you can see Ride is now started. So this is how you can open Ride, and you can also create a desktop shortcut. And let us very quickly see the UI of Ride. So this is very simple and intuitive UI. You have some menu options: file to create a new project, open some projects and save. You have edit to add some tags, and then some normal edit options like redo, undo, etc. In tools, you can run and stop test cases. You can search for some keywords or some test cases. You can also manage plugins from here. You can also go to preferences, and here you can make some change in the text editors and so on. So like this, you can make some changes here. And then you have other options like navigate, macros. In help, you can go to the user guide. You can also go to about and see what is the version of Ride you are having, and so on. So now we have Ride, and here we have some very commonly used controls like go back, go forward, open, save and search, and then play and stop the test case. So let us go to our next step, which is we have to create a new project, a new test suite and a new test case. So what I'm going to do is go to file and say new project, and here you can name your project whatever name you want to give to it, and also you can create it as a file or as a directory. So in case you want to create a directory, click here and then you have to provide the location here. So what I'm going to do here is I already have created a folder for robot in my system. I will copy this location and provide it here, and then I will name my project as project 1 and say OK. So here is my project, and now I will again do a right click and add a new test suite, and here I will name it as test suite 1 and again say OK. And inside our test suite we can now do a right click and add a new test case. So I will add a new test case and give the name as test 1 and say OK. And you can see we have got our new test case here, and here is the editor where I can create a test case. Okay, so we have added a new project, a new test suite and a new test case in our ride editor. Now we have to create a Selenium test case. So what we have to do is we have to add the Selenium library. So for adding the Selenium library, let us go to our browser and let us go to robot framework website, and I'm going to robotframework.org. So this is the website for robot framework, and here you will find this option for libraries. So go here, and here we have standard, external and other. So Selenium is an external library, and here you will find this Selenium library. You can also get Selenium 2 library, but that is a older version. So let us go to Selenium library here. So it will take you to a GitHub page where this Selenium library is maintained. And if you go down, you will find the commands to install Selenium library. So here is the command to install Selenium library with Python. So I will just copy this and go to my command prompt and just paste it. I think this is not copied. Let me copy this again from here. I will copy it and then go to my command prompt and just paste it here. So it's copied 2 times. Yeah, so now this is fine. So pip install hyphen upgrade robot framework hyphen Selenium library and hit enter. So it will download the Selenium library and then install it. So now Selenium library is installed. You can also cross check by going to your folder. So let me go to my Python folder. So in Python 27 you can see, yes, I have Selenium folder here, and in fact if I go to scripts or if I go to lib, let me just find where it should go. So site packages, yes, again I can see Selenium here, so you can find it here. And then now we have our Selenium library. So now in the project we have to import, which is step number 5. We have to import the Selenium library in our project. So let us go to our ride again, the UI of ride, and I'm going to the project, and in the project you will find this option for adding the library. Click here, and here I can just say Selenium library and say OK. So you can see the Selenium library is here, and now I will go to the test suite and I have to again do the same thing, add the library inside my test suite. So again I will go to add import library and I will say Selenium library and say OK. And now you can see this has come in a black color, so that means this is successfully imported. In case it is not able to import it successfully, it will show in red color. So let me show you an example. I will again try to import Selenium 2 library, and because I do not have it, if I say OK, you can see this is in red color, right? So I will delete it for now, and I just want Selenium library. So we have done this step number 5, which is adding the library for Selenium. Now step number 6 is we can start writing our test case in the test case editor. So I will go to test case, and here now I can start writing the Selenium keywords. So one thing you can do is you can start typing Selenium and you can press Control plus spacebar on your keyboard, and you should see this auto suggestion for all the actions and keywords of Selenium. Okay, and it also gives you all the necessary information how you can use some particular action or keyword. So for example, if I want to use Selenium library and open browser, so it gives us the option. You can just click and it has already uh, filled the entire option for us. Also, you can again press Control Spacebar and it shows you all the necessary information on how to use it. So you can see this open browser and you will see how to use it, what are the browsers you can use with this command, and exactly how you can use this as an example. So you can say open browser, give the link or the URL, and then you can give the browser name. So you can give Chrome, and also for Chrome you can use Google Chrome or GC. Any of this should work. And the other thing is, it's not necessary to give Selenium library every time as an prefix. You can just leave this and only say open browser. Even that should work. So you can see even open browser works. And here you can just say open browser. Here you can give the any link. So for example, let us open this robot framework URL. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it here as the URL. Okay, and I want to open this in, let us say, Chrome browser. So I will say Chrome, and now our test case is created. So now what I can do is I can go to this Run tab, and here I can click on the Start button to run my test case. So I will say Start and save. And now you can see there is an error and it says Chrome driver executable needs to be in path. Okay, so what this means is because we are using a Selenium library, we need to give the driver for the browser that we are going to use. Even for Firefox, we need to give an external browser driver. So for that, what we have to do is you have to add the browser drivers. So we have done step number 7, which is add keywords and run. And because our test has failed, we have to add the browser drivers. So let us do this. Let us go to our command. Let us go to our browser and go to a Selenium website, which is seleniumhq.org, and go to download section. And here, if you go down, and if you go down and you will find this third-party drivers, and here you have all the drivers. So you have Mozilla Gecko driver for Firefox, we have Google Chrome driver, we have Microsoft Edge driver. So here we need a Google Chrome driver. So let me just take the latest version, which is 2.33 as of now, and here I will download it for Windows. So you can download it for your operating system. I am downloading it for Windows, and this should start the download for Chrome driver. And yes, and let me go to the downloads folder. So I will open this here. It's in my download section, so I will just extract it. I will unzip this, and once this is unzipped, I should get my Chrome driver.exe. So what I will do is I will cut it from here, or I will delete it from here, and I need to add this into my Python folder. So I will go to my Python, and you can either paste it in your Python 27, or even you can go to Python scripts and just paste it. The reason I am pasting it here is because now it will be available everywhere on this system, because we have already added this path Python scripts in our environment variables path. So I can show you again. I will just go to right click on this PC or my computer and go to properties and go to advanced system settings and go to environment variables, and here you will find an environment variable by the name path, and I will just go to edit, and you can see here I have added this particular location in my environment variable path. And because this is added here, all the libraries, all the programs which are added on this particular location will be available across the system. So now I can use it anywhere, from anywhere I can call this. So I'll just close this, and now I have added the browser drivers. So now I can run my test again. So this is a very simple test, which is opening a browser and going to robotframework.org and doing it on a Chrome browser. So I will just go again to the run section, and also you can see the last time it failed, so it is showing a cross sign here in red. The next time if it passes, it should show a green sign here. So I will go here and say start. So this has started. This should open a Chrome browser, and yes, and it should go to robotframework.org, and it does that. And of course, because we have not used close browser, it will not close this. So let me just close this manually, and you can see everything is passed. It shows us a log, and also here is a link to go to the report and logs. So I will click on the report. So it opens a very good, nice looking report in a browser. It shows us all the information. You can see the summary here of the test, the status, the start time, the end time, the elapsed time, and then we have a log file link as well. Also, you can see the statistics here of how many test cases ran, what passed, what failed, and all the other details. And you can also go to the log file from directly from here. This link here, so I'll click it and it opens the log file. Here you can see the details. So you can see the test suite details, the test case details, and then also the keyword details. So it shows us all the finer details of our test case, of our execution, what was the browser used, what was the time for each and every step, and everything. Also, you can now again do a close browser. So you can say close and hit control spacebar, so it will uh, give you all the options. I just need to close my browser, so that's it. I will save it and then go to run and run it again. So this time it should open the browser, go to robotframework.org, and then close the browser. So it goes to robotframework.org and then it closes the browser, and we have everything here which is running fine. So this is how you can create your first test case. And also, if you go to your test case, here you have a option for settings. If you go here, you can see you can give some documentation. So you can give some details about your test case. You can write some details and description about your test case. And then we have a setup. So in case you want to run some scripts or some actions before this test case, you can add it here. In case you want to run some actions after the test case, you can add it in tear down. In the next session, we will see exactly how to do that. So this was all about how do we get started with writing our first Selenium test case in Ride. I hope you liked it. Thank you so much for watching. Hello and welcome to this session on Robot Framework Beginner Tutorial. And in this session, we are going to see how do we run our Selenium test on different browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Edge, IE, etc. So we will add the browser exe files, and then we will test if we can run our Selenium test on different browsers on Robot Framework. And I hope you have seen the earlier tutorials where we started working with Robot Framework, and in the last session we created our first Selenium test. So assuming that you have seen the earlier session, let us begin with today's session. And to save some time, I have already added some notes here. So step one is we will open our RIDE, which is Robot Framework IDE that we are using to create our test cases. So I will just open my command prompt and I will say ride.py, and this should open my ride IDE. So here we are, and if we go inside test suite and test case, this is the test case that we created in our last session. So now we had already added the Chrome browser executable file, so this can run on a Chrome browser. So if I go to the run section and hit on the start button, it will run the test on a Chrome browser. So it opens a Chrome browser, goes to robotframework.org website, and then finally it will close the browser. So everything is fine, and we have got a success, and we can also see the report and logs that we have already seen in our last session. Now suppose if I want to change Chrome to some other browser, let us say I want to use Firefox. I'm saying Firefox, and I will again save and run the project. Now you are seeing it is failing, and it says Gecko driver executable not found. So here is the message. Gecko driver executable needs to be in the path. So what we need to do is, whatever browser we need to run our test on, we have to get the browser driver exe files. So we will go to our browser and go to seleniumhq.org website. So this is the official website for Selenium, and here you can go to the downloads section, and here if you go down, you will find this section for third-party drivers, bindings and plugins. And if you go down, you will find all these browser drivers, and we have Mozilla Gecko driver for Firefox, we have Chrome, Opera, Microsoft Edge, and similarly other browser drivers. So what we are going to do is, in case you want to run our test cases on Firefox, we will take Gecko driver, and whatever latest version you have at your time, you can take that. So as of now it is 0.19.0. So I will just click on this link, and here I will take the Gecko driver for my operating system. So I am using Windows 64-bit operating system. Also, in case you want to see your bit size, in case you are using Windows, you can go to your my computer or this PC and right click, go to properties, and here you can see your bit size for your operating system. So mine is 64, so I will just get this Windows 64 for Gecko driver and let it download. I will just go here to its location. I will unzip it. You can use any utility to unzip it. I am just using 7-zip, and here it is. So here we have got our geekodriver.exe file. Now I will take it from here. I will just copy it from here or cut it from here, and now I will go to my C drive where my Python folder is. So my Python folder is in C Python 27, and inside scripts I will add this executable. So Chrome driver is already here, and now I will add my Gecko driver as well. So I have added my Gecko driver here. Okay, now this Gecko driver is available directly to my robot scripts because I have already added this path in my environment variables. So we have seen this in our earlier session. So if I again show you very quickly, if I go to my computer's properties, advanced system settings, and go to environment variables and go to the environment variable called path. Yeah, and if I go to environment variable path and click edit, you can see this Python 27 scripts folder is added to my environment variable path, and because of this it is now everything which is inside this folder C Python 27 scripts is available across my system. So now I do not have to set the path for Gecko driver in my coding or in my robot framework. I will just now go to my robot framework, and here now I will just run it again. So let us see if now it runs on a Firefox browser. So it opened a Firefox browser, and yes, it is now going to the website robotframework.org, and once it is loaded it will then close the browser. So everything is successful, and we can see the report everything is pass. We can also see the logs, everything is okay and everything is pass. So we are able to run our test on Firefox browser. Now similarly, you can also use any browser. For example, if you want to run on Microsoft Edge, you will do the same thing. Go to this website and then take the driver executable for uh, Edge browser and then include it in your scripts folder or whatever folder is there which is available across the system. Similarly, you can use Safari driver and others. In case you are going with Internet Explorer, then there is a different section here. So yes, Internet Explorer, you will find a section here and you can get the 32-bit or 64-bit driver for IE. Also, one thing to note here is sometimes 64-bit driver does not work very well in even if your operating system is 64-bit, but 32-bit driver works well with a 64-bit operating system as well. So you can try it out. And so let me go back to my notes. So the second step is create a step to open browser in Firefox, and we have already seen that this failed the first time, and then we did the third step, which was get browser driver exe file. We went to seleniumhq.org and downloaded the browser exe file, and we kept the file in Python 27 scripts folder. And the note I have already told you, this folder should be added in environment path variable. And then we did open write, go to test case, and then we started our test with the new browser and it worked fine. Here is a list of the browsers and the name to use. So for Firefox, you can use Firefox or FF. For Google Chrome, for this one, for Internet Explorer, and for Edge. Also, you can go back to your right and go back to your test cases. And when you click on this keyword, open browser, you can press Ctrl plus spacebar on your keyboard and it will show you all the details. You can click here inside the window and it will open as a separate window, and here you have all the details. You can see the browsers and the names that you have to use for these browsers, and also you get all the syntax here. So this is very good in robot framework that you can get all the details of every keyword, how exactly you have to use it, what are the names you have to use for different browsers, and so on. Another thing is you can also use a keyword called log to console. So in case you want to write anything on the console, so I want that at the end I just want to log on console completed successfully. Okay, so I'm just writing to the console and I will save it and let me run it again. Let me go back and use my Chrome browser here and save it and run it again. So it opens a Chrome browser, goes to the website, and it will close it. And let us wait for the results. And yes, we have got the results, and you can see it has written completed successfully on our console that we wanted. So we have done this, and the final step, run and validate, we have also done. So this is how we can run our test cases on any browser within robot framework. In the next session, we will learn more about different features of a test case test suite, and we will start looking into variables and keyword. I hope this session was useful for you. Thank you for watching. Hello and welcome to this session on Robot Framework Beginner Tutorial. I'm Raghav and today we are going to see how to use variables in Robot Framework. So we are going to see what are variables in Robot Framework. We will look at what are the types of variables available. We will see how do we create variables, and then we will see how do we refer variables in our Robot Framework. And towards the end of this session, we will also look at some useful tips. So in case you are new to Robot Framework and you do not know what are variables, do not worry. We will go very basic step by step. And by the end of this session, you will know exactly everything about variables, what variables are and how do you use them in robot framework. So to save some time, I have added some notes here. So what variables are? So variables are elements used to store values that can be referenced by other elements. For example, if I say name equals Raghav, so I have assigned the value Raghav to the variable name, and now I can use this variable name anywhere in my test case and I will get the value Raghav. So this is how we use variables in a very simple way, and we will exactly see how do we use them in robot framework. So in robot framework, we basically have three types of variables. We have scalar variables, we have list variables, and we have dictionary variables. And in a moment from now, you will exactly know what are these and how do you use them. In fact, there is another variable as well, which is environment variable. You cannot create an environment variable, but you can get or set an environment variable through your IDE and through robot framework, and we will see what exactly we have to do for that. So let us start, and we will go very basic step by step. The first step is we have to open our IDE, which is write. So you can go to the command prompt and you can say write.py. We have already seen that in our earlier session. So I have my write open here, and this is the test that we created in our earlier session. So what we are going to do is we will create a new test, and we will create a new test for a login test case. So let us create a new test. So what I will do is in the test suite, I will say right click and say new test and the name test 2, and I will say okay. And here I have to create my test case. So what I'm going to do is I will go to a demo website. So this is the demo website that I'm going to, which is Orange HRM. I will also copy this and put it in the notes, and all these notes will be available in the description of this video. So do not worry, you will get all these notes in the description. So I'm going to this website, and this is a demo website which has a username and password. So I can enter this username and password and hit the login button, and it will log me in into the website. Okay, so we will create this simple use case. So let me go back, and let me just copy this URL from here, and in my test case the first step I will say is open browser, and I have got this. I have pressed Control spacebar on my keyboard and I have got this option, and here I will give the URL, and here I will give the browser. So let me do it on Chrome. Okay, the next step is I have to enter the username. So let me go back. Yeah, so here I have to enter the username. So I have to get the locator for this username box. So I will do a right click. I am on Chrome, so I can do a right click and say inspect element. You can also use Firebug or any other means to locate. And here I am getting the ID as txt username. So this is the ID for this username text box. I will just copy it from here, and let me go back to my write, and here I will say the keyword is input text, and the locator is id, which is equals to txt username, and here I have to give admin. The next step is I have to input password, and let me again go back to my website and locate, find the identifier for password field. So this is txt password. Let me just copy it from here again, go back and say id equals txt password, and here I have to say admin, and then I have to click on the login button. So I will select the keyword click button, and again I will go back and find the locator for the button. So this is the login button. Let me find the locator. and we have this ID btn login. So again I will copy it from here, go back to my right and say ID equals btn login, and then I will close the browser. So I will call the keyword close browser from Selenium, and that's it. So all these keywords are from Selenium, and in the earlier session we have already seen how do we add Selenium libraries. So in case you have directly come to this session, I request you to go back and watch the earlier session. So now our test case is done. We can press Control S on our keyboard to save it, and we can run it. Now let me run it. So let us start. Okay, we don't have any tags. Let me start it again. So it opens the Chrome browser, and this is the first test case which goes to robot framework, opens the browser and goes to robot framework and closes. And now it should start our second test case. Yes, it has started. Goes to Chrome browser, goes to Orange HRM website, and it gives username, password, and then logs in and then close. Now we want that we should run only test 2 and we should not run test 1 always. So what I'm going to do is, before I go to the variables, I'm going to go to test 2 here, and then in the settings there is a field for tags. So what I will do is I will add a tag here, which is anything I can add here. I'm just adding test 2 for easy referencing, and then in the run section I will say only run test with these tags, which is test 2. So from next time onwards our first test case will not run and we will always have our test 2 running. So let me save this, and now let me go back to our notes. So we have done the first and the second step. The third step is we have to create a scalar variable for URL and refer it in test case. So let me go back to my right here, and what we are going to do is, here instead of hard coding this URL here, we are going to refer it through a variable. So we are going to go to test suite, do a right click and select new scalar variable, and here let me name it as anything I can name. Let me name it as URL, and I have to give the value. So I am going to give this value which I have given in my test case, the URL. So I copy this, or I can copy it from here as well. This is the URL. I'll say new scalar URL, and this is the value. You can also give some comment for documentation, which is optional. So I'm leaving it as blank and say OK. So we have got our scalar variable URL created, and now I have to refer it in test2 in this place. So for scalar variable, the syntax is you have to use a dollar symbol, and then in curly braces you have to give the variable name. So I will give a dollar symbol here. Let me just remove everything here, give a dollar symbol and then curly braces and the variable name, which is URL, and that's it. Let me save it and see if this runs properly. I will start. So this should now run our second test case, and yes, it is going to the same URL. So this is successful, and we have seen how do we create a scalar variable and then how do we refer a scalar variable. So the advantage here is, for example, you want to run this test case on different versions of the URL or different environments where the URL will differ. The only thing you have to do is you can just edit it here and it will be referenced from here. Also, if you go to your uh, text edit tab here, you can see this variable has come here. So you can directly write variables here as well. So for example, if I say here dollar name, and after some spaces I say Raghav. So this has also become a new variable, and you can see it has come here as well, right? So you can create the variables from the text edit mode or directly as well. So let me for now just remove this, and let us go to our next variable, which is list variable. So let us go back and do a right click again on the test suite and select new list variable, and let me say this is credentials. Okay, and here you can select the number of columns you want to have. So let me go with just one column, and here I will give the username and password, and I will refer it from here. So username is admin and password is again admin, and I say okay. And now I will go to test 2, and in place of this admin and admin username and password, I will refer the list variable, the values from the list variable. So the syntax for list variable is you have to give a add symbol and then in the curly braces the variable name. So I will come here, give add symbol, and with curly braces I will give the variable name credentials. And now because this is a list, I have to give a index number. So this is index 0, so it will take the very first value in the list. And again here as well I will say at credentials and value the first value. So this is the first position, which is 0, and this is the second position, which is 1. So this is how I can refer to the list variable. Now this is not a very best example of showing the list variable, but for now just understand this, and in the next sessions we will look more into this in detail. So let me just save and run it again and see if this works fine. So I will run the test case again. Let us see if this takes the username and password from list variable. So it goes, and yes, it puts in the username and password, and our test is successful. So this is, we have learned how to use list variable, and then we have dictionary variable. So dictionary variable is something similar to what we have like hash maps or hash tables, where we have keys and values. So let us see how do we use it. Again, let me go back to my right, and in the test suite I will say right click, new dictionary variable, and again let me refer the username and password from here. So I will give it any name, let us say login, and here I will say username equals admin, and then I can say password equals admin. So username is the key and admin is the value, and again password is the key and admin is the value. Okay, and now I will refer it in my test case. So the syntax for dictionary variable is and symbol and then curly braces, and inside the curly braces we have the variable name. So let me do this thing here. Here in the password I will just remove this, and I will say and curly braces the name of the list variable, which is login, and then I have to give the key. So I have to take the password from here. Okay, and let us just save, and again let me try to run it and see if the list variable gets referenced properly. It goes to the URL, and yes, it has entered the password and logs into the application. So we are done with dictionary variable as well. And I told you that we have another variable called environment variable, and here what we can do is we can get or set the operating system environment variables. So for example, let me show you an example for this. Let me have another step where I want to log something to the console. So I will say log to console, and I will say user one ran this test on Windows OS. Okay, and what will happen is after the test is run, this line will be printed on the console that user 1 ran the test on Windows operating system. However, I do not want to hardcode this user 1 and the operating system, and I want that this should be taken from the environment variable. So let me go to a command prompt and say if I want to take the username. So let me see the username, which is Raghav Pal, and let me say what is the OS, which is Windows NT. So what I will do is for environment variables, the syntax is percentage and the variable name. So what I will do here is instead of user1, I will say percent username, ran this test case on percentage curly braces and the environment variable name, and that's it. Let me save and let us run and see if we get the environment variables referenced properly or not. So it goes to the browser, goes to the website, logs in, and it should close the browser now. And let us wait to see what it enters on the console. And you can see it entered what we wanted, which is the username it has taken from the environment variables and the operating system as well. So this is very handy when you want to log some messages or log something in the report. This becomes very handy. So this is about environment variables, and let us now go to some useful tips. So if a non-existent variable is used in the test data, the keyword using it will fail. So in case you are using any variable which is not existent, or sometimes if you make a spelling mistake, then that particular keyword will fail. You can also set the variables from command line. So this is a very good option that you have, that you can set all your variables from command line. So you never have to go again and again on the UI, on the right IDE and change it. We will learn how to do that in the next sessions. Variables are case insensitive, so they are not case sensitive. But as a best practice, we use uppercase variable names for global variables and then lowercase variables for local variables. So in case you are setting some global variables that will be used across test cases, use uppercase letters, and for local variables which will be used within the same test case, you can use lowercase variables. Also, we have built-in variables. So this is a URL. I will have this URL in the description as well. So there are some built-in variables in robot framework. So let us go and see. So here you can use all these built-in variables. So for example, you can directly call curdir, which is an absolute path to the directory where the data file is located. Similarly, you can say tempdir and other things. And there are many other variables, for example, test name. So you can say dollar in curly braces test name. This will print the name of the current test case. So you can refer this test name, test case, documentations, and all those things. So this is very handy. You can make use of these built-in variables. So that is all on variables. So today we learned what are variables in robot framework and how do we use different kind of variables. I hope this session was very useful for you. In the next sessions, we will learn more about different features of test cases, test suites, and keywords in robot framework. Thank you for watching.
Hello and welcome to this session on Robot Framework Beginner Tutorial. And in this session we are going to see how to use keywords in Robot Framework, and we are going to go very basic step by step and learn from scratch how to use keywords. So we are going to see what are keywords, what are the types of keywords in Robot Framework. We are also going to see how do we create user keywords and how do we reference user keywords in our test cases. Towards the end of this session, we will also look at some useful tips. So let us begin. And before I go to step one, let me also just discuss about keywords. So in robot framework we have two types of keywords. We have library keywords and we have user keywords. So keywords are the actions that we perform on any of our test cases. So if I open write, let me go to my command prompt and say write.py, and this is the test that we have been creating in our earlier session. And if I go to any of the test case, you can see here open browser, close browser, all these are keywords from the Selenium library, and then login to console is the keyword from the built-in library. So these are the actions that we can perform on our test cases. So these are a group of actions which are defined within a particular keywords, and we have two types of keywords, which are library keywords and also known as low level keywords, and then we have user keywords which are known as high level keywords. So the library keywords, as I showed you, if you import or use any of the existing library, and any of the keywords within that library are called as low level keywords, for example open browser, close browser, login to console, etc. And then if you create some custom keywords, so these are the custom keywords which are created by users, and it can be a combination of library keywords or any of the actions. So these are custom keywords and these are called as user keywords. So we create these keywords, and these are normally a combination of multiple keywords. So let us now begin and go to step 1, which is open our write, and we have already done that. We have opened our write IDE, and now let us do step number 2, and we will create a new user keyword. So what you will do is, in your write, you can do a right click on project and select new user keyword. The shortcut is Ctrl plus Shift plus K on your keyboard. You can also go to test suite and again do a right click and select new user keyword. So let me do this, click on new user keyword, and let me create a keyword by the name login. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to add the actions of adding a username and the password within a custom keyword by the name login, and I will say OK. So let me write down the steps along with it. Go to, or I should say right click on project or test suite, and then you have to select new user keyword, and step 3 is create a keyword for login. So what I'm going to do is, the actions for login, which is adding the username, password, and click on the login button, I'm going to add in this keyword, which we have already done in our earlier test cases as well. So this is, we have to this is test number 2, where we learned about variables, and here we can use this input text id txt username, input password id txt password, and then the data. So let me just go to the login keyword, and here I will start creating. I will say input text and id equals txt username, and I have to enter the data admin, and here input password, and I'm pressing Ctrl plus spacebar on my keyboard so that I can get this options, and id equals txt password, and this is admin, and then click button. Let me just again check what is the id for click button. It is btn login. So id equals btn login. So now I have created this keyword login, and I have to now refer this keyword in a test case. So that is step number 4, refer the keyword in a test case. So what I will do is, I will go to my test suite, do a right click and create a new test case, and I will name it as test3 and OK. And here I will start with open browser. So I will say open browser. Here I have to give the URL. So I can give the URL, or I can also use the variables as we have seen in our last session. So I have a variable called URL here, and I have already given the URL in the value, so I can directly use this variable name. So I'm just using this in my login keyword. Sorry, in my test case I will say this is the URL, and I have to open it in a Chrome browser. And now after opening the URL I have to do login, so which is my login keyword. So I will just refer my login keyword here. I will just type the name and that's it. And you can see it has changed the color to a blue color of the keyword. So that means it is now referencing the keyword. Just in case if I make a spelling mistake, you can see it is now not changing. So I can very easily make out that the keyword is not referenced properly. So I will again make it this login, and now it is correct. Also, if you click here, it takes you to that particular keyword. So this is very handy. So now here it is, and now after this I will say close all browsers. Okay, so now we have referenced it here. Let us see if it runs properly. So what I'm going to do is to make only test number 3 run, I will go to the settings, and in the tags I will add a tag called test3. I can add any tag, I can give any name. I'm giving a name test3 for easy referencing. And in the run section I am saying run the test only with the tag test3, so it does not run any other of our test cases. I will just go and start it. So it should open a Chrome browser and goes to the URL. Yes, and it should, yes, it entered the username and password and clicked on the login button and now closed it. So we are able to create and refer our keyword successfully. And you see the advantage here is, instead of typing all these steps again in a test case, I can now just keep all these steps separately in a user defined keyword and then refer it anywhere in my test cases. So this keeps our test case very clean. It does not make the test case very long and very complex. The other advantage is, in case there is any change in the keyword in this any of these actions or any of these IDs, I have to make the change only at one place, only in the keyword, and all the places where this keyword is being referenced, I do not have to touch that. So this becomes very handy. Now let us look at some useful tips. One tip I have already shown you, that you can always look at the color of the keyword to make sure that you are referencing it correctly, and you can click on the keyword, it takes you to the keyword section. Also you can do a right click on the project, or you can do a right click on the test suite, and then you have this option for search keywords here. You can get this option directly from this menu. We have this search keywords icon here, and the shortcut is F5 on your keyboard, and click here, and here you get this window where you can search for any of the keywords. So for example, I say open browser, and even if I do not complete the name and click enter, it gives me all the suggestions here. So these are the keywords which are available for use in my project. And let me search for my custom created keyword, which is login, and you can see it gives us the suggestion and gives us the search result here as well. Also there is this button called find usage. So if you click this, it will show you where all you have used this particular login keyword. So I have used this in test number 3 in the steps, and this is the source. So this becomes very handy. Also you can filter your search by this drop down. So if you just only want only the user keywords to be given in the search results, or only the library keywords, or only for some particular library, you can do that as well. So in this session we have learned what are keywords, what are the types of keywords in robot framework, how do you create keywords and how do you reference keywords. In the next section, we will see how do you use setup and tear down in test case and test suite. I hope this session was useful for you. Thank you for watching. Hello and welcome to this session on Robot Framework Beginner Tutorial. In this session, we are going to learn what is setup and tear down and how do we use them in our test cases. So let us begin, and we will go very basic step by step. And before we go into the right IDE and create setup and tear down, let us see what exactly is setup. So setup is a keyword which is executed before running any lower level component or keyword. What do we mean by this is, for example, if you have created a setup at a test suite level, then that particular keyword that you have given in the setup of test suite will get executed before running any of the child test suites or any of the test cases in that particular test suite. And similarly, when we talk about tear down, it is the same thing. It is a keyword. Whatever you will give the keyword will get executed after running any lower level components or keywords. So in case you have given a tear down at a test suite level, so this particular tear down keyword that you have given will get executed after it has run all the child test suites or the test cases within that test suite. So now let us go to step 1 and we will open our write IDE. So let me go to command prompt and say write.py. It opens our write IDE, and this is the project and test that we have been creating in our earlier sessions. So step 2 is let us create test suite setup and tear down and run it. So we will create a setup and tear down at test suite level first. So I'm going to test suite and I can go to the settings here, and you can see suite setup and suite tear down is here. So what I'm going to do is I will click on this edit button in the suite setup, and it will give me this window for suite setup, and here I can give any of the keywords. So here you can give any of the library keywords that libraries you have imported or any of the built-in keywords, and you can also give any of the user defined or user keywords. So for example, I am starting with a library keyword log to console, and you can press Control spacebar on your keyboard to get this option, and I can use a pipe symbol and give the argument. So I want to log a message test suite started. So you can see this is the syntax. You can use the keyword and then you can give the argument separated by pipe symbol, and I say OK. And similarly, I will also create a suite tear down. I will click on this edit button, and now I will say again I will log something to console, and I will say test suite completed, and I say OK. So I have created this suite setup and suite tear down, and if I save and run any of the test cases, so for example let me run our last created test case, which is test 3. So I have given a tag test 3 here, and I have given the same tag in the run section. So I have given only run test with these tags test 3, and let me just run it. So it opens a Chrome browser and then goes to Orange HRM website, logs in and comes out. Okay, so the test is done and we have got the logs as well, and let us see. So you can see it has logged in before starting the test it logged in test suite started, and then after running the test it logged in test suite completed. So you can see this is how it gets used in the test, the setup and tear down at test suite level. Now we can also create at test level. So for example, this is my test case. I go to the edit section and go to settings. Here you can see we have setup and tear down at the test case level as well. So for example, I go to edit, and now here I have got the setup window. Again I log to console and I say test case started and say OK, and again in the tear down I will say log to console test case completed and say OK. So I have got setup and tear down at test case level as well. I will save and again go to run and start again. So let us see what happens this time. So our test is running, goes to the browser, logs in and comes out, and let us wait for the logs. And yes, now you can see it first logged in test suite started, and then it logged in test case started, and then at the end it logged in test case completed, and then it logged in test suite completed. So this is how we can use these test setup and tear down. And normally the actual use will be, for example, if you want to make some particular action take place every time before starting a test suite, then you can have that particular action in the setup. So for example, I go to my test suite and I say that I want to open some particular browser before running every test case, because all the test cases uses that particular browser. So what I can do is I can create a keyword. So let me do a right click and I say new user keyword, and I say go to home page. I'm giving any name here, and here I can say open browser, control spacebar to autocomplete, and I will give the URL, and I can also reference variables here. So for example, I have already created a scalar variable by the name URL which goes to this particular URL. So I can say this, I can use this variable here, and I can say I want to use Chrome browser. Okay, so I have created a keyword by the name go to home page, where I'm opening the browser and going to Orange HRM website on a Chrome browser, and then now I can use this go to home page as a setup on my test suite level. So in the test suite I say, in the setup of test suite I say call the keyword go to home page, and it is available here now, and I can say OK. And then in the suite tear down I am saying after the test is completed I want to close the browser, so I can call close all browsers. So you see this close all browsers is a Selenium library keyword, and the earlier keyword go to home page is our custom keyword. Okay, so now we have done this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this open browser step from my test case. So I'm just going to delete this row, or I should delete the entire row, delete rows, and again I'm going to delete the closed browsers as well from the test case. So I am going to delete this row as well. So you see our test case is now only login, which is again a keyword where I am giving the username, password, and click on the login button, and that's it. The earlier actions and the later actions are being referenced from the suite setup and tear down. Let me save and let me see if it runs it correctly. So I am starting it. So yes, it opens the browser, goes to Orange HRM, logs in, and then now it should close the browser. And yes, it closes the browser. So you can see this is how handy it can be. So we have used our suite setup and suite teardown to do all the common actions that should be done before every test case and after every test case, and our test case is now very simple and very clean. Okay, so this is how we use setup and teardown in robot framework. I hope this session was very useful for you. Thank you for watching. Hello and welcome to this session on Robot Framework Beginner Tutorial. In this session we are going to see how to create tags, how do you use tags during test execution, how can you use tags in reports, and how can we create dynamic tags, and we will also look at how can we set tags from command line. So we are going to go very basic step by step in this session, and by the end of this session you will know all about tags in Robot Framework. So let's get started, and let me open my write IDE. So I will go to my command line and I will say write.py, and this opens the write IDE, and this is the test suite and the project that we have been creating in our earlier sessions. So let me just create a new test case and let me name it as test 4 and say OK. Now let me create a very simple test case. So what I'm going to do is I will say log to console, and I pressed control plus spacebar on my keyboard so that I can get this option. I can just select this, so this will just write something on the console whatever I put here. So I am saying test 4 started, and let me also add a Selenium keyword. So I'm saying open browser, and it should go to the URL http google.com, and I want to use a Chrome browser here, and let me just close all browsers and again log to console test 4 completed. Okay, so this is a very simple test case that I have created. Now what I'm going to do is I will go to these settings. So I click on the settings here, and you can see we have an option for tags here. Okay, so here we can add our tags, and before I add a tag, let us see tags are useful to classify, categorize test cases. So tags are basically free text that you can give to your test cases or test suite, which can be used during test execution reports and then basically used to categorize and classify the test cases. So now let us go back and I will click on this edit button and add a new tag. So you can add any tags or you can give any name. So here I am giving test 4, and also if you want to give multiple tags you can separate by pipe symbol and then say something else. So tag test 4 and sanity will be two tags which will be given to this test case. So let me give test 4 as of now and say OK. Let me just do it again. Yeah, so now we have got this tag test 4 for this particular test case. Now the very first thing that we can do is we can use the tags for text execution. So for example, here if I go to the run section, you can see we have this section only run tests with these tags, and you can give the tag name. Also you have a section skip tests with these tags, and you can give the tag names here. So that is very handy because now I do not want to run all the test cases in my test suite. I only want to run the test with tag test 4. So I will give it here and then I will say start. So this should only run my test 4. So let us see. It goes to the browser. However, it is going to some earlier test. So let us see what is the issue. And now it goes to our test case. Yeah, it goes to browser, goes to Google, and then should close it. And yes, so it closed it, right? So it also added this into the console. Test 4 started, test 4 completed. Okay. However, it ran something else before starting our test case, and that is because at test suite level we have some setup or tear down. So let me just go to test suite level and let us see what is the setup and tear down do we have here. And yes, in our earlier session we created a suite setup, which is go to home page, and go to home page opens the browser where that is this particular Orange HRM website. So I am going to remove this from here so that it does not run every time. I say OK, and now if I run my test, it should only run test 4. Let us also go to the report, and you can see in the report you will find a section statistics by tag, and here you will see your tags and the statistics, the total number of test cases with this tag, the pass count and the fail count. So this becomes very handy during your analysis of the reports. You have this section here as well, tags. If you click here, you can actually select the tags. You get a drop down from where you can select the tag, and then you will get all the statistics for that particular tag. Similarly, if you go to the log file, you again have this statistics by tag, and then if you expand your test suite and test case, you will see all the information. So test 4 was the tag associated with this particular test case. Okay, so this is how you use test during execution and then reporting. Also, let me just show you, in case let us say you have more than one test with the same tag. So if I go here and I say this is, I gave a name sanity tag to this test case, and let me also create a new test by the name test 5 and say OK. And here again in the tags I say test 5, and I also say this is also a sanity test. And let me just give some keyword here. In fact, I will give some wrong keyword. So instead of saying log to console, I will make some mistake here so that it should fail. So I'm giving some spelling mistake in the keyword, and let us see what happens. So this should fail and eventually it should create a report. So see what we have done. In test 4 we have tag as sanity, and in test 5 we have tag as test 5 and sanity. Okay, and now what I am doing is I will go to run, and in fact let me just have sanity in both, so I do not want this. And now in the run section I will say run test only with the tag sanity, and I will say start. So it should run the test 4, which goes to the browser, goes to google.com and then closes the browser, and then test 5, which should eventually fail. So yes, you can see we have got a failure. If you go to the report now you can see statistics by tags, sanity tag, there are total 2, one is pass and one is fail. Okay, and you can see the graph here as well. Similarly, you can select the tag here and you can see the statistics here, and the same thing you can find in the logs as well. Okay, so this becomes very handy when you want to analyze the reports. So basically normally we give tags like sanity, smoke, regression, critical, or any other tag as per your application or your need. So it will be very handy for you, so you can categorize your test cases based on tags and then also view the reports based on these tags. So this we have learned how to use tags. Now we will see how to create dynamic tags. So let me go back to my IDE, and here in test 4 what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a keyword set tags. Okay, and here I can set any tag, so I can say this is smoke test, or let me say smoke test. Okay, so now let me go back and run it again. So this should run my test number 4 and then test 5, because we have given sanity to both. And yes, it's done. Now if I go to report, and you can see we have got this new tag here, which is smoke test, which was not earlier present. And same thing, if you go to tags, I can see this is present here as well. Okay, so this is how you can give dynamic tags during runtime to your test cases. You can also remove tags dynamically during runtime, and so I say remove tag smoke test. So now if I run it again, let us see. Now we should not get the smoke test tag in our report. Let us verify that. So it is done. Let us go to the report, and you can see now we do not have the tag smoke test, so we have removed it dynamically. Okay, so this is how you can create or remove tags dynamically during runtime. Also, other thing is how do you set tags from command line? So this is one of the useful tips. Command line option is set tag, and if you want to run your robot test cases from command line, you have to do two steps. Step 1 is go to command line and change directory to your robot framework project. So my robot framework is here. Yeah, this is my robot framework. Okay, so I will copy this location, go to command line and change to this directory. Okay, and then the syntax is robot, and then you have to say the option -t for running a particular test case and the test case name. For example, I want to run test 4 and then the suite name. So for example, minus test suite.txt. Okay, so if I run this, let me just go to command prompt and say robot -t test 4 and then test suite.txt. This is my test suite file, and I say enter. So it is saying test 4 started, and you can see it starts my test number 4 and then completes it, and everything is pass. Now if I want to set some tag here, what I will do is I will say robot -t test 4 and then I will say double hyphen or dash dash set tag equals to, I want to say this is let's say regression. Okay, so I'm saying set tag regression, and I will just run it again. So it starts test number 4, goes to the browser, goes to google.com, and it should now close it, and yes, and let us wait for the report. Everything is passed and we have got our logs and report here. Let me just copy this location and go to my browser and see the report, and you can see we have got this tag regression here that we created through command line. And the same thing, if you go to tags, we get the tag regression in the drop down as well. So this is how you use tags in robot framework. So today we learned how do we create, use and define tags in robot framework. I hope this session was useful for you. I will meet you in the next session. Thank you for watching. Hello and welcome to this session on Robot Framework Beginner Tutorial. And in this session we are going to see how can you run your tests from command line, and we are going to go very basic step by step, and we will see how can you run one specific test from command line, how can we run few selected tests, then we will see how can we run test with some specific tags, and we will see how can we include and exclude tags in command line. We will also see how can you run all the tests within a test suite in a command line, and then we will see how can we send the results to a specific folder from command line execution. So in case you are one of those who believe command line is always a tricky option and you find it difficult, believe me, after the end of this session you will find it very easy and you will always want to use command line for your robot framework test execution. So let us begin, and step number one will be we will open our command line and go to the location of our project. So let me open my command prompt, and now I have to go to the location where my project is. So in my case my robot framework project is located here, so I will just copy this path, and then in the command line I will say cd for change directory and just paste this location and say enter. So now I am in my project location in my command prompt. So this is step 1, and step 2 is now we have to run our test cases. So let us see how to run single test, and the syntax is you have to say robot and -t for test case and the test name, and then you have to give the suite name, okay, or the suite file. For example, in my case I have this test suite.txt as my test suite file. So let me go to the command line, and here I will say robot -t, and I have to give the test name. So in my case I have a test called test5, and then I say test suite, and if I press tab on my keyboard I get this auto completed. So I am saying robot -t, the test case name and the test suite file, and hit enter, and you can see it was a very simple test case which just logged test started and test completed on the console, and it is completed, and we have also got the report here. So you can also copy this and open in your browser, and you can see this is the report, and you can also see the logs here. Okay, let me also open my write so that I can show you the test. I will say write.py, and you can see this is the project that we have been creating in our earlier sessions, and this was the test that we just ran from command line, which just uh, logged test 5 started and test 5 completed to the console. Now let us see and how to run multiple test cases. So I will say run multiple tests. So for that again we will use the same command robot -t, and then let's say test1, and then again -c and say test2, and then the suite file. So in the same way I will say, let me clear this, and I will say robot -t test4 -t test5 and my test suite file, and hit enter. So you can see test4 is starting. So of course our test4 goes to a browser and then comes out, and then test5, and then you have got the report, and you can go back, and if I refresh it you can see we have now these test 4 and 5 getting executed. So let me go to the logs and you can see test 4 and 5 got executed. Okay, so this is how we execute two test cases. Now let us go ahead and we have to see how do we run test with some specific tags. So let us say step 4 is run tests with tags. Okay, and here if I go to my right, you can see in test 4 I have a tag given as smoke, and if I go to test 5 you can see I have a tag sanity. Okay, so let us see how can we run these tests based on the tags from command line. So the syntax will be here robot and then hyphen hyphen include and the tag name and then the suite file. Okay, so let me go back and here I will say robot hyphen hyphen include and I just want to include the tag sanity and my suite file name, and that's it. Let me run it and you can see it has only executed test 5 which had the tag as sanity. And also you can, instead of hyphen hyphen include, you can also give hyphen I or dash I, which is the one and the same thing, and again it will do the same thing. It will run the test with the tag sanity. Now if you want to run with multiple tags, you can say minus I sanity, or you can also say minus I smoke. So I want to run test which has both of these tags and I hit enter. So you can see now it is starting test number 4 which was for smoke tag, and then it will do test number 5. So test 4 is done and then it will run test 5 as well, and you can see, and of course we can go back to our report and you can see both of these tests got executed. Okay, you can also uh, go to the tags and you can see smoke and sanity both got executed. We have sanity and smoke. Okay, so let me also write down, you can also use minus I or dash I instead of writing the entire include here. So you can use this as well, and you can include multiple tags. And also if you want to use a regular expression, so for example let me go back to my command line and let us say, let me clear this, and I can say robot minus I and I can say s star. So this means that all the tags starting with s and whatever they have after that, it's okay. Run all the tests which have the tag name as s and then anything and my suite name. Okay, so this is a regular expression. You can use any regular expression. So you can see it has started test 4 which was smoke tag, and then it executed test 5 as well, that was for sanity tag. So this is how you can use tags during your execution from command line. Now let us also see how can you run all the tests in a test suite. So this is step 5, run all tests in a test suite. So in fact for this you just have to say robot and your suite file. So for example, let me go to my command prompt, let me clear this, and I can just say robot test suite, whatever is my test suite file name, and hit enter, and now you can see it has started test 1 and it will run all the other test cases. So test 1 is going to the browser. So let me go and show you in right. Our test 1 is it goes to the browser robotframework.org and then close browser and log something to the console. Test2 is again going to a browser and doing a login. So I believe now we are on test number 2. It goes to Orange HRM, does a login, and it will come out. And then test 3 is again a simple login, goes to the browser, and 4 and 5. So let me go back, and you can see there are some pass and some failures, but all the tests within that test suite were executed. And you can go to the report, and you can see we have all the tests got executed, and you can see with tags as well we have all these tests, and in the logs also you can see all the tests got executed. Okay, so this is how you can run all the tests within a suite. And now let us see how can you send the results to a specific folder. So step number 6 is send results to a folder. So for that you have to use the option -d and then whatever the location you want to give, and you can use this option in all the commands. So for example, let me just take a very simple test, a single test. So I am saying robot -t test 5, and now I will say -t results and my test suite. So what it will do is within this project, whatever location I am at, it will create a results folder if it is not already there, and if it is already there it will send the results to this folder, and if it's not there it will create and send the results. So let me just run this, and you can see it is pass. And if I go to my project, you can see results folder here, and I can go inside and you can see these results have come here, and I can open this in a browser. So let me just open this with a Chrome browser, and you can see all the results are here and even the logs are here. Okay, so let me also just write it down for notes, and I will provide all these notes in the description of this video. So you can say robot, and I have used -t for running a particular test case, and then I can say -t and the location, whatever location you want to send it to, and your suite file name. So this is in my case. So you can use this with all the earlier commands as well, the -t option. Okay, and now let us go to some useful tips. And one of the useful tips I have already shown you, that you can use regular expression. So for example, in tags you can use regular expression. I think I did not tell you about excluding a tags. You can also exclude tags. So let me also show you that example. So like we included the tags and we used minus include, you can also exclude by using exclude. So I can say robot minus exclude, and I can say smoke or sanity or whatever tags, or I can also use regular expressions like s star, and then I can say my test suite. And you can use this exclude, or you can use only -e, both will work fine. So in this case it will exclude all the test cases that have tags starting with s, and it will run all the other. So you can see it is running the first test case which did not have any tags or tags starting with s, and it will run all the other test case as well. Also there is one option, how can you make the tags critical or non-critical. Let us see that as well. Let this execution get complete. So as of now we are on test number 2, and yes, everything is now complete. So let me show you how can you make tags as critical and non-critical. So let me say, I say robot -i for include tags, and I say include all the tags with starting with s star, and I can now say critical and I say smoke. So any test case having the tag smoke will be shown as critical in the report, and then my test suite file. So let me just run this. So this will run the tags starting with S, which is test number 4 and 5. This is test number 4, and then we have test number 5, and here is the report. Let me just copy this location and go to our browser and just paste this. And did you see it has made smoke as critical? Okay, it has made the tag smoke as critical. I can click here, and even here you can see smoke is displayed as critical and sanity as it is normal, right? So this is how you can it is very handy that when you have multiple test cases and you want to make some particular test cases with some particular tag as critical to be shown in the report, you can do that. And similarly you can also make it as non-critical. So for non-critical you will say hyphen hyphen non-critical, and you can also use the short form -c for critical and -n for non-critical. So let me just run it now with -n tag. So it will again run test number 4, which goes to a browser and goes to google.com and closes it, and then it should run test number 5, which is a pass. So let me again refresh this report, and now you can see smoke tag is non-critical, and you can also see it here. Smoke tag is non-critical, and this is how you can make your test cases critical and non-critical based on tags, which can be shown in the report. And also this is a guide. So here is a URL. This is a guide where you will find all the command line options, which will be very handy for your day-to-day working with robot framework from command line. I will make this URL available here, and all these notes will be available in the description of this video. So I hope now it is very clear to you how can you run tests from command line with all these options. So I hope this was very easy. Thanks for watching. I will meet you in the next session. Keep watching Robot Framework beginner tutorials. Hit the like button if you really liked this session, and also share it with others. And consider subscribing to this channel where I post videos related to automation, DevOps, CI and testing. I will meet you in the next session. Thank you for watching. Hello and welcome to this session on Robot Framework beginner tutorial, and today we are going to see how can we run our robot test cases from Jenkins. So we are going to go very basic step by step, and we will look at how to create a job in Jenkins. We will then add the robot framework plugin in Jenkins, and then we will configure our robot framework test in Jenkins, and we will see how can we see the reports in Jenkins, and we will run and validate our test cases in Jenkins. Towards the end of this session we will also look at some useful tips. So let's get started, and step number 1 is we have to download Jenkins from the internet. So let us go to our browser, and you can just say download Jenkins, and you will get this site jenkins.io. Go here, and if you hit download you will get this section, and we will take the jenkins.war here. So you can click here and it will download the jenkins.war file. For now I will cancel this download because I already have it. So let me go to my jenkins.war file, and you can see this is the jenkins.war file. Now what you have to do is you have to go to the command line and go to this location where your jenkins.war file is. One of the shortcuts is if you go to the address bar on Windows and say cmd and hit enter, it will directly open the command line on that location. So here you will see you can write here java -jar and the file name, which is jenkins.war, and if you press enter here it will open Jenkins on the default port, which is 8080. But in case you want to open Jenkins on a different port, you can say --http port equals any port. So I will say 9191, and now you can hit enter. So this will start our Jenkins server on port 9191. So let us go to our browser, and now here you can open Jenkins by saying localhost and the port number. So in our case it is 9191, and hit enter. So this should open our Jenkins, and here it is. Also you can say, in place of localhost, you can give the IP 127.0.0.1 and the port number, which is 9191. Now 127.0.0.1 is the IP for localhost. So localhost or this IP is one and the same thing, and it will again go to our Jenkins, and you can give the username, password and login. And just in case if you are completely new to Jenkins and you are facing any issues, you can go to my YouTube channel. So you can go to YouTube and the channel Automation Step by Step, and here you will find a playlist. So if you go to the playlists and look at all the playlists, you will find a playlist for Jenkins here. So this is the playlist for Jenkins.
Docker would be
here you can find all the videos for Jenkins. So if you are getting started with Jenkins, you can watch the first session and you will know everything about Jenkins. So this is how you can start Jenkins. Also you can start Jenkins by by the IP of your system. For example, if you go to your command line and say ipconfig, it will show you your IP. So in my case this is the IP. You can copy this, and again if you go to your browser and give this IP and say 9191 or whatever the port number you have, it will again start your Jenkins. So these are different ways of starting Jenkins, and in my case you will see there are already some jobs because I have already created some other jobs. Now here step number 2 is you have to start Jenkins, which we have already done, and step number 3 is you have to add robot framework plugin in Jenkins. So for that, what we are going to do is, if you go to your Jenkins and if you go to manage Jenkins, and here you will find manage plugins. Click here, and here you have these different tabs: updates, available, installed, advanced. Go to the available tab, and here in the filter say robot, and you will see this is the robot framework plugin. In the search, just click here and say installed without restart, or you can also download and install. So I am selecting install without restart. So this is successful. And now if you go back to your dashboard, so we have now robot framework plugin added to Jenkins, and now we have to create a job. So we have to create job to run robot framework tests. So go to here, new item, and here you can give any name. So I am saying here robot test job, or just robot test should be fine, a freestyle project, and say OK. And this should give you your job created, and here we will configure this job. So here what we have to do is, if you go down and if you go to the build step, you can select add build steps, And in case you are on Windows, you will select execute Windows batch command, and in case you are on Mac, you can say execute shell. So I'm on Windows, I will say execute Windows batch command, and here you have to give the command to run your robot framework test cases. So this we have already seen in our last session, how can we run our robot framework test cases from command line. So in case you have not watched that, please go and watch that session. So here I will directly put the commands to run the robot framework test cases. Let me also open my ride to see the test cases I have. So I'm saying ride.py, it should open the ride editor, and yes, and this is the test suite that we have been creating in our earlier session. It has these 5 test cases. So let us run some of these. So what I'm going to do is I have to first go to the directory of my project. So my project is in this directory. This is my project. I will just copy this location. So I will say C colon, so that in case it is on any other directory, it will come to C, and then change directory to this location. And now I will say the command to run the test cases, which is robot -t results. So I want to put all the results in a single folder called results, and I can say test suite 1.txt, which is my test suite file, test suite 1.txt, and this will run all the test cases. So just to save time, I will just run test3. So I am saying -t test3 and test4. So of course all these options and commands we have seen in our last session. So this command should run test3 and test4 from our test suite. And now if you go to the post build actions, here you will see an option to publish robot framework test results, and this option you will get only after you have added the robot framework plugin. So just click here, and here it is asking us to give the directory of the output where the results will be published. So in our case we are sending all the results to the results folder, so you can give this location here, you can give like this. The other thing that you can do is, if you give this project location up to here, inside your general section, if you go to the advanced, there is a section use custom workspace. So if you click here, you can give the custom workspace, and I am giving the location of my project, the robot project here. And now what I can do is, in this section post build action and the location where I have to give the path for robot output, I can just delete this because I have already given this above, and I can only keep results here. So this will be handy in case I change this location. I will only have to change here. Okay, and now you can go to advanced, and you can give the name of your output XML, report HTML, and log HTML files in case you are using any different names. But in our case we are not using any different names. It is by default log.html, output.xml, and report.html, whatever the robot framework creates. So we can just leave this. Also, if you want to copy any other files, for example the screenshot files, etc., you can give it here. And then this is the section for threshold. So if you want to give some threshold value, for example at this particular percentage level the job should be marked as pass or fail, you can give that. Also you can hit on this question mark sign and it will give you the details of what does this mean. So as of now I will keep this as empty and say apply and save. And now you can build this project, and I am clicking on build now. So this will run our project. So you can see this is running, and also you can see the logs and the console output here as well. So it is starting test 3 and 4 and it is done. So you can go back to the project, and now you can see the robot results here. Here are the robot results, and you can also see it here as well. So if you click on this robot results, you will get all these details: the execution time, the duration, the status. So there were 2 critical tests, one passed and one failed, and then all these reports as well. And here you can see the graphs here. So you can see one pass and one fail. If you want to see only failed ones, you can filter here only critical ones, and also you can select the number of builds that you want to see. For example, if you just want to see some particular build or 2 builds or 3 builds, you can give the number here as well. Okay, as of now we just have a single build, so let it be all, and then you can see the duration and trend here, and then the failed test cases and test suite. So if you click here, it will show you only the failed test cases and the message, so it becomes very handy to troubleshoot. It will also show you how many times it failed. If you click here, it will take you to this section which will show you the pass fail percentages, and then you have a section for test suite. If you click here, it will again show you all these test cases that were inside the test suite, and you can click on a particular test case to see its report. Okay, also you have this report.html. You can click here, and in case you are getting this issue, your report is not opening, so let us go and say Jenkins content security policy. So there are some security policies. So if you go here, you will find this configure security policy in Jenkins. Let us go, and you can see the default rule is set to something else, and in case we want to unset the header, we have to use this. So I am just copying this, and I will also make it available in the notes, and all the notes will be available below the description of this video. And I'm just copying this, and you can go to your Jenkins, and if you go to manage Jenkins, and here you will have a option for script console. Just go here and paste it and run it here, and you should find this result displayed. If this is displayed, that means your script is successful. Now let me go back to my project, robot test and robot results, and let me see now. Okay, so I think we will have to run our project once again. So let us run the project again, build now, and let us also see the console output, and it is done. Let us go back to the project, go to robot results, and yes, now it is showing the report here. Okay, so this is how you can fix this issue. We can also see the logs, and we can also see the original result files. You will see all these again here. This is how you can run this. And let us also go back to our project and say configure, and here let me also add one more test case just so that we can see some better reports. I am adding test 5 also here, and say apply and save and build now. So this also opens the browser, and I think this is done. and see, if you see the results now, you can see this is the build number, this is build 1, build 2, and after build 2 you can see in build number 3, because we had 3 test cases out of which 2 passed and 1 failed, you can see the graph changing here. And similarly the duration trend you can see here, and then the failed test cases and the test suite. Okay, so let me also write it down. So step number 5 will be run and validate. Okay, so let us look at some useful tips. One of the useful tip I have already shown you, that in case you are not getting the HTML inside your Jenkins, you have to go to your script console within manage Jenkins and run this in the script, and if you see results, then if you run the next job, it should show your result HTML. Also, if you want to see the graphs per test cases, you can go here. So if you go to your robot results and go at the bottom and go to test suite, here if you go down, you can see the particular test cases that you have got executed, and if you click on any of this, you will see the graph for only that particular test cases. And what you can also do is you can change the builds here. So if you want to see the results only for 1 or 2 builds, so you can see the entire trend here. Similarly for duration, you can do that. The other tip is, if you go to your project and go to configure, and here inside this post build actions, you can also use wild characters. So like you star.xml, star.report, or any other wildcard characters, so you can use this. So you do not have to worry if your name changes, it will still pick it up. Okay, so this is how you can run your robot framework jobs in Jenkins, and also you can configure the robot framework plugins and look at the results directly in Jenkins. I hope this session was useful for you. Thank you for watching. Hello and welcome to this session on Robot Framework Beginner Tutorial. In this session we are going to see different ways of installing, uninstalling, upgrading and downloading Robot Framework, and towards the end of this session we will also look at some useful tips. So let's get started, and to save some time I have added some notes here. So first we will see what are the different options we have for installation. So to install Robot Framework, we have already seen we can do with pip install robot framework, and of course we need Python and pip installed, which we have already covered in earlier sessions. So let us go to my command prompt, and here to install I can directly say pip install robot framework and hit enter, and this command will download the latest robot framework version which is available at your time, and it will install the robot framework, and you can see it has successfully installed robot framework. The next thing is, if we want to install a specific version, we can give the specific version of robot framework by giving these two equal signs. So I can say here pip install robot framework equals and the version name. So if I want to install the version 290, I will give it here and say enter, and it will then download that particular version and install it. And you can also see, if you have already some other version, it uninstalls that version and then installs the required version. Now in case you want to install robot framework again and you already have installed it earlier, then it will always take the cached files by default. So for example, let me show you. Let me first just uninstall robot framework. So I'm saying pip uninstall robot framework, and yes, enter successfully uninstalled. So now if I say pip install robot framework, you can see it is using the cached files. So it has already downloaded some earlier files and it is using that information to install the robot framework. However, if you want that it should do a fresh installation, then what you have to do, let me first uninstall it again. And now if I want to do a fresh installation and I want to ignore the cached files, then I will give the command pip install, and the option I will give is no cache dir and robot framework. So you see, this time it will again download a fresh copy and then do the installations for us. Also, another thing that you can do is you can also empty your cache folder. So your pips cache folder will be available in your, in case of Windows it is available in your C users and your user, and then you will find a hidden folder by the name app data. Go here, local, and then you will find a folder for pip, and here you will find this cache folder. So you can just empty this folder. So if you empty this folder and then do again pip install, and even if you do not give this no cache dir, it will download and then install a fresh installation for you. So now let us go to verify installation. So of course, whenever you install you should verify. So you can say robot space dash dash version, and it will show you the robot framework version which is installed on your system, and it is also showing us the Python version. And also you can give some other commands like robot hyphen hyphen help. This will show you some other details about robot framework. So if you go do this, if you run the help command, you can see it shows us the version of robot framework. It also tells us robot framework a generic test automation framework, and it gives us some description. Robot framework is a Python based keyword driven test automation framework for acceptance level testing and acceptance test driven development. So these things are very handy and useful. You should always try looking at the help section. And now if you want to upgrade robot framework, this is the command pip install hyphen hyphen upgrade robot framework. Let me just copy it from here and go to my command line, and I will just paste it here, and let us run it. And it is saying requirement already up to date. So in case you have a installation which is not the latest version, then it will install the latest version. As of now my version is already the latest, so it is saying requirement already up to date. And then suppose you want to download and then install robot framework. So let us do one thing. I will first just uninstall robot framework. Okay, and let me also clear the cache. I am just deleting everything in the cache. And now if I say pip download robot framework and hit enter, you can see it will now only download the latest version of robot framework, and it will just save it and it will not install. You can also download some specific version, and it shows us that it has saved the robot framework zip file at this location. You can also just copy and go here for verifying. So if you go to this location, you can see this zip file is here. Okay, and now then you can again run pip install and the robot framework from that zip file. So now I will say pip install robot framework and whatever file was downloaded, and I will hit enter. So now robot framework will get downloaded from that, will get installed from that downloaded file. Okay, and of course we have already seen if you want to uninstall, you can use the uninstall command. And in the useful tips, let us learn about rebot. So when you install robot framework, and if it is robot framework 2.7 version or above, then you will also have rebot installed, and you can also check the rebot version by saying rebot space hyphen hyphen version, and it shows you rebot 3.0.2, which is the latest. Now what exactly is rebot? Let us go to uh, rebot space hyphen hyphen help and hit enter, and let me go to the top, and yes, so see, it is saying rebot is robot framework report and log generator. Rebot can be used to generate logs and reports in HTML format, and it can also produce new XML output files which can be further processed with rebot or other tools. So you should always check that you have rebot installed and is properly working. In the coming sessions we will learn what exactly and how exactly rebot can be used for reporting. So I hope this session is very clear and it was very useful. Thank you for watching. I will meet you in the next session. Keep watching Robot Framework beginner tutorials. Hello and welcome to this session, and in this session we are going to see some very useful tips and in terms of commands that you can use in your day-to-day life to work with robot framework. I hope you have watched some earlier sessions on this series. So today let us look at these very useful commands. So I'm going to my command prompt on Windows, and the very first command we are going to see is robot version, and you must already have seen this in the earlier sessions as well. So after you install robot framework, you can run this command robot space hyphen hyphen version, and it gives you the version of the robot framework, and also it gives you the version of Python on which it is working. So we can have more than one Python version on our systems, so we can always validate what is the Python version which is being used by our robot framework. The other command is robot space hyphen hyphen help, and this command gives you all the details about the robot framework. So if I go up, it tells you robot framework is a generic test automation framework, and also you can look at some of the information. Robot framework is a Python based keyword driven test automation framework for acceptance level testing and acceptance test driven development. So this information is very handy. You can read this, and then it also gives us different options that can be used along with your robot command. So it will be very useful if you go through this. And then let us look at the other command, which is pip freeze. So if you run this command pip freeze, it gives you the details and the list of all the Python packages that you have installed and is available. So you can see you have this robot framework here, robot framework 302, the version, and all the other libraries of robot framework are also available here. So you can use this. The other command you can also use is pip list. So if I say pip list, and it is also similar to pip freeze, it shows you all the list of libraries, Python libraries that you have available on your system. And then we have a very useful command called as pip show. So for example, for any library or any package, Python package that you want to see the details, you can say pip show, and for example I want to see for robot framework, and hit enter. So it gives you all the details, the name, the version, the summary, and the home page URL, author, email, and location on your system. So this is very handy. You can use this with any other library as well. So if I say pip show robot framework and Selenium 2 library that we have already installed in our earlier sessions, it shows us all the details. And then the next command is pip check. So this is again a very useful command. So you can say pip check robot framework, and if you hit enter, it will actually check if there are any dependencies or requirements which are not satisfied. So it will give you a list. For now all the requirements are satisfied for robot framework, so it is saying no broken requirements. And similarly you can check for others. So if I say pip check, let me say another library, robot framework Angular JS library. So I have already installed this library, and if I hit enter, it is saying no broken requirements. Now with my experience, I know robot framework AngularJS library needs Selenium 2 library to be installed. So let us check. If I uninstall Selenium 2 library, I say pip uninstall robot framework Selenium 2 library and hit yes, and it installed the library. And now if I say pip check robot framework AngularJS library and hit enter, now you can see it is giving us the details. Robot framework extended to library and AngularJS requires robot framework Selenium 2 library, which is not installed. So this will be very useful and very handy. You will directly come to know what is the issue. For example, if you have added some library and it is not working properly, just go and say pip check and that particular library, and it will show you the details of what is missing, what is the broken requirements. So I hope this session was very useful for you. You can use these commands in your day-to-day working of robot framework. Thank you for watching.